On here are the sidewalks that we
Good
did
evening.
the other day.
I would like to call to order the May 19th, 2020 Little Rock City Board of Directors meeting. We'd like to welcome those that are in attendance as well as those watching at home or streaming online. We would also like to welcome Directors Hendricks, Richardson, Webb, Fordson, and Vice Mayor Wyatt, who are participating with us via video conferencing. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Director Hendricks?
Present.
Director Richardson?
Here.
Director Webb? Director Peck?
Here.
Director Hines?
Present.
Director Wright? Director Compuris? Director Fordson?
Here.
Director Adcock?
Present.
Vice Mayor Wyrick? Director Webb?
Here.
And we don't have Director Wyrick. Okay.
Let me now recognize Director Adcock for the invocation.
Please bow your head. Our great Heavenly Father, we are so thankful for this day. We're thankful for all the blessings you have given us. Guide and direct us as we come to the meeting tonight to do the business of the City of Little Rock. Be with all of our city employees. Keep them safe. Health. And for those, Lord, that are in fear, give them comfort. And Heavenly Father, keep us close to you and help us learn from all that's going on to love and to be kind to each other. Guide and direct us as we do your business. We ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Maybe I'll stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have two modifications for tonight's agenda. The deferral of item 6 and the executive session to the second meeting in July, which would be July the 21st. Is there a motion?
So move.
There's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Mayor,
Yes, Director Hendricks? Director Hendricks?
yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Mayor. Are you talking, what was that we just voted on?
We just
We're
deferred.
voting on.
Yes, ma'am. We just deferred the body cameras to July 21st, as well as executive session to July 21st.
Are we talking about item 7?
No, ma'am. Item
Not
6
yet.
and, 6 and 14.
Mr. Mayor.
Director Compuris?
I'd like to compliment you on not doing the like we do it, but in our financial situation, and I know putting it off, we have more numbers to know what we're doing. I appreciate you doing it, so thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Compuris. I also want to thank that you and I have been working together on a number of different things, and I got a bit of news for you, Director Compuris.
And I've got a question on that same.
Yes, ma'am. The news is also offered, even though we've already deferred and it's still in place, 0 interest and no payment to October 15, 2021. That's a very good deal. But we'll take it up again at another date, but that also will help in our decision making as it relates to financing. Director Hendricks?
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm still looking at this. If we just get a motion on number 7.
No, ma'am. We've made a motion to defer.
With the putting off the police license. Is that what I just heard?
No, ma'am. We deferred.
What you do with it?
We deferred item
I
6.
regret that this thing not working.
Director Hendricks, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, but do you hear me? I want to know why was it deferred?
Which, item 6 or 14?
7, number 7.
Item 7 was not deferred.
Oh, well, I'm looking at the agenda, so you somebody changed that. That deals with the equipment for the police department. Is that what we're talking about?
No, well, we just deferred item 6, which deals with the body worn cameras, that we're going to defer this vote until July the 21st. But
Okay.
item number
The reason
7.
why- The reason why I say it's 7 because I saw 7 on my computer.
Okay. No, well, it's item
I
number.
was doing- So you agreed with deferring it, and tell me again so I can share this with my constituents.
Yes, I agree to defer. We want to receive our sales tax projections, that we will have a greater understanding of the fiscal impact of COVID-19, and that's the reason for the deferral.
I was just hoping it had nothing to do with the crisis that's going on, but 3 board members want him vacated.
No, ma'am.
You know, I don't mince words,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
I don't cover up.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I've been down there 12 years, listening to a bunch of, you know what?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Yes,
Go ahead
thank
with
you.
your meeting.
Thank you.
I said the same. And every one of them.
Yes, ma'am. We've had a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay. Aye, I'm sorry.
Ayes have it. There was unanimous ayes. Madam Clerk, would you now read the consent agenda?
The consent agenda consists of a motion to approve the minutes of the April 21st, 2020 Little Rock City Board of Directors and the May 5th Little Rock City Board of Directors meeting and the April 28th, 2020 Little Rock City Board of Directors reconvene meeting. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with J. Riggs Caterpillar in amount not to exceed $199,975 for the purchase of one Caterpillar D6 dozer for the Public Works Department and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a contract with Junkin Construction Company Incorporated in amount not to exceed $390,000 funding from the 3/8 cent capital improvement sales tax. A resolution authorizes the mayor, city manager, and city clerk to enter into a transfer agreement for ownership of right-of-way from the city of Little Rock, Arkansas to the Arkansas Department of Transportation and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the mayor and city clerk to execute the documents necessary to acquire property located between Hyman and Western Hills Parks that will allow for the construction of a trail to connect the two parks and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into agreement with U.S. Able to provide long-term disability benefits to non-uniform employees of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. A resolution to authorize the use of up to $700,000 to pay a portion of the principal of and interest of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas Hotel Gross Receipts Tax Bond Series 2018 due on December 1st, 2020, and for the purposes. A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau to manage and operate the Little Rock River Market and First Security Amphitheater for a 12-month term beginning January 1st, 2020, and for the purposes. A resolution to authorize a 3-year extension of the interlocal agreement for ambulance service between the City of Little Rock, Arkansas and the City of Cabot, Arkansas, which grants the Little Rock Ambulance Authority, doing business as Metropolitan Emergency Medical Services, an exclusive franchise to provide ambulance services to the City of Cabot, Arkansas, and for the purposes. That concludes the consent
Move for
agenda.
the adoption of the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it.
I have, Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
on, what's number 3, was that read in all of this? It deals with the sidewalks.
Number 3.
Yeah, is that the sidewalk thing?
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to have a list of where those sidewalks would be.
Yes, ma'am. We'll
You got
get
it,
that.
Bruce?
Director Honeywell, if you'll provide that list to myself, Mr. Moore, and Director Hendricks. And actually, no, just provide it first to Director Hendricks, but also let's make sure that all the directors receive it as well. But I don't think she has hers from. Oh, all the board members have it here is what I'm understanding. But if you'll, Director Honeywell, if you have that on your iPad, if you will send that to Director Hendricks, that would be appreciated. And she,
That's for every ward.
yes, ma'am. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, would you read item 11 for the first time?
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a plan residential district titled McEwen, short form PRD, located at 201 Crystal Court, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a plan residential district titled McEwen, short form PRD, located at 201 Crystal Court, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development, establish a plan residential district titled McEwen, short form PRD, located at 201 Crystal Court, third and final reading.
We've now had 3 readings before we go for the final vote. Mr. Wade McEwen, would you like to speak? Director Collins is going to get Mr. McCone.
Good evening. So today I just want to run through the proposal that we presented to the Zoning Commission. It's been a few months from now, but they approved it, and I'm going to run through that. And I don't know who's got the slide. You got the slides, okay. So you can go to the first slide. So the project overview is that we were renting our garage apartment out as an Airbnb. We want to be in compliance with the law, and we know the city has been thinking about policy around this, and I think that's smart to have this regulated, and we want to be compliant with whatever those regulations ends up being. And we want to, assure the people, the city leaders, the board, and, our neighbors and our hosts that we're committed to doing this the right way. You can go to the second slide, please. So these are just a little bit about us and our project. So we're 20 years in Hillcrest, so we're committed to the neighborhood. We care about the neighborhood and our neighbors, and these are the steps that we take to ensure that we don't, that we try to be as unobtrusive as possible. We have a garage at our house, which most homes in our area don't, and so we don't park on the street, so there frees up parking for our guests. We have designated quiet hours. We require all our guests to have a government ID so we know who they are. We have security lighting and cameras, so again, we know who's coming and going, which we know, we want our neighbors to be comfortable about who's staying there. And for our guest safety, we have smoke alarms and we have fire extinguishers there. And probably the most important thing is that our physical home is 25 feet from the residents that we rent out. So we know who's there. We meet and greet anyone who checks in anyway, but we have a good handle on who's there, who's staying there, and we can see them physically. And so that helps us, if there was any noise complaints or anything, which there hasn't been in a couple years. So so you can see that slide shows that's looking from our back door to the garage apartment that we rent out. That's how close it is to our home. The next slide will show the parking. So that's Alpine Court, which is we're on the corner of Crystal and Alpine is a cut through, so there's no residences on Alpine. So that's where we direct our guests to park. And as you can see, that was early morning on a weekday morning, and there was really nobody on it. It's used as a cut through, so it's not it doesn't produce any traffic problems at all. I know our neighbors wanted to make sure about that, and that hasn't been a problem. Our guests, it's a 1-bedroom place, so typically there's one car there and one car on the street that hardly has any traffic, and there's again nobody physically has an address on that block that we're on. Advance the slide, please. Again, just quickly, we're again committed to doing something that's good and that's nice. It's great for the neighborhood. We've invested significantly in our property. We care about our property, and we want to have people there that want to be there, and we want to be good ambassadors for Little Rock and our neighborhood. You can advance, please. Yeah, so we we love to be hosts for Little Rock. We love to recommend that our guests where they can go enjoy things in the neighborhood. We get tremendous reviews from the people that stay with us, and we always get positive reviews about the city as well. So again, we really enjoy getting to meet people from other places, but also be ambassadors for the city of Little Rock and our neighborhood. You can advance. Okay. And again, this is stuff that you probably are aware of, but there's been some confusion in the past. But Airbnb, who is the service we use, they take out their tax, all the city taxes, the A&P tax, and the tourism tax. They take all those taxes out before we ever get paid. So that's so remitting taxes is not a concern. In addition, we pay our federal and state income taxes on top of that. So it's good for the city as well. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, would you please read item 12 for the first time?
An ordinance to approve a plan zoning development and establish a planned residential district titled Bailey Weinkauf, short form PRD, located at 205 Crystal Court, Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
There's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Second reading.
An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development, establish a planned residential district titled Bailey Weinkauf, short form PRD, located at 205 Crystal Court, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
There's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Third reading.
An ordinance to approve a planned zoning development, establish a planned residential district titled Bailey Weinkauf, short form PRD, located at 205 Crystal Court, third and final reading.
Now that we've had three readings, are there any questions? Seeing no questions, Mr. Mark Bailey, believe you are remote. Mr. Mark Bailey?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for having me virtually, and I believe that there's a PowerPoint slideshow there. Thank you very much. So these images that you see kind of help describe our proposal. Very similar to the McKeown, to our neighbors. You can actually see the red building in the back right corner there. That's their garage apartment. This is the cottage that is in our backyard that we're renting out. If you could go to the next slide, please. So this cottage is in the back corner of our property. When we bought the property, it was falling down. We've since renovated it specifically for the purpose of short-term rental. We rented it out for 4 months, and we're notified that we are compliant, so it stopped last summer. You can go to the next slide. I think there's some summary points. So this property is 250 square feet. One point of confusion that we heard during the April 28th meeting with Jamie Collins was that it is listed on Airbnb, where we rent it, as the entire place. However, as you saw in the last slide, it is on our premise, just like the McKeown's. It is in the back of our property, but it has its own private entrance, and so that's why we call it the entire place. We have rebuilt the entire structure to code. Safety measures were taken during the building, carbon monoxide and smoke detectors, fire extinguishers. As McKeown's mentioned, we have been paying taxes, which Airbnb collects. That's a total of 11%, so it's about $100 a month from just our property alone that's going to all these taxes, and that doesn't include income tax. We have not rented this property out through Airbnb or any other venue since we were asked to stop back in last spring. And as the McKeown's also said, the Planning Commission made a recommendation to approve this request back in August of 2019. I believe the next few slides kind of show the street that, this is the corner of Crystal and Alpine. The McEwen's property is the red one, where the next one up the street towards the blue car. This is typical parking on a random Tuesday night, I think this is, Wednesday night. And this shows that we both park our cars in our driveway, and so we do not use any street parking. The 250 square foot cottage only has one bed, and so we typically only would have one vehicle for guests, and they would park in the street. The next picture is up Alpine Court at the same time. Once again, very few cars parked on the street. And the next image shows, I believe, the cottage when we purchased the property, and inside are the next two shots. And so this kind of shows that when we bought the property, it was in very, very bad shape. And so the next slide shows the renovated property, and then the next couple of slides are the inside of the property and what we have made it into. And then the last shot is a side-by-side comparison of the two. And so this is a kind of revitalization that we think is very important to add to the community. Unlike the McEwens, we've only lived in this neighborhood for 3 years, but we really want to show the glory of Little Rock and Hillcrest. We are ambassadors as well for the neighborhood, and this is how we try to represent the city, bring in new people to the neighborhood to visit our shops, eat at our restaurants. We do have the same security measures the McEwens do with IDs. We are observant of who comes into the property. And we have also been in communication with the Hillcrest Residents Association. I believe that they provided a letter saying that they are not in opposition of this request. So we're trying to make sure that we're good neighbors and in communication with those who it impacts the most.
Thank you so much for your presentation. All those in favor, please. Director Computers.
Tom, one question for you, both on 11 and 12. When we pass these, are we passing it for the owners at this time, or does this right go with the house in perpetuity?
It goes with the house because it's a planned development. But in going with the house will have to comply with whatever guidelines are set forth in the planned development.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 13 for the first time?
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapters 15, 23, 29, 30, 31, and 36 of 1988, and for the purposes, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Before I carry that vote, Director Richardson, would you like to say something?
Yes, Mayor, I tried to take on the item before this. Are these going to be rental properties? Did I understand that correctly?
Mr. Attorney, would you explain what item number 12 was?
Sound like one's going to be a bed and breakfast and the other one sound like it's going to be a rental property.
Well, they're both going to be residential properties. They're going to be part of a planned district.
Mr. Attorney shared that they both will be residential properties, a part of a planned district.
So will they or will they not be allowed to rent those out?
Yes, they will be allowed.
Register my vote as nay on both of those, please.
Yes, we will register those.
Thank you, Mayor.
My pleasure. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. We've already voted.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have a second reading. We're still
Oh, we're back on ordinance, okay.
right. We were just allowing him to
All right.
ask about that.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapters 15, 23, 29, 30, 31, and 36 of 1988, and for the purposes, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
There's a motion and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The
Is
third.
that the third reading or the second?
Correct me?
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Was that the third reading or the second?
It was the. We're getting ready to do the third reading. Third reading.
Okay.
An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Revised Code, Chapters 15, 23, 29, 30, 31, and 36, third and final reading.
Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
I have a question.
Director Hendricks?
All this stuff is new to me. Will you explain to me, Mayor, just exactly what this is?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, Director Collins, would you come briefly explain before we take the vote? Briefly. Before Director Collins explains, I will say this is a testament to our planning and development staff, the community, as well as developers and builders and residents to ensure that we create a major revision in our planning and development codes that we have not seen since the 1980s to help streamline permitting processes and bring us to the 21st century within our planning and development building codes. Director Collins?
No. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Jamie can go back to his seat. I support this.
Yes, ma'am. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it.
Nay.
We'll now go to citizens' communication. Mr. Russ Raycott.
Thank you, Mayor, Board. Tonight I want to speak about some troubling issues we have in our city. We've had a couple of city directors rightfully speak out against the chief of police, and I commend them for doing that. But I'm here tonight to chastise them for not having that same concern about the over 50 officers that we have at LRPD that are on a liars list. They've been documented and suspended because they have been dishonest. They've either lied in an investigation, they filed a false report, and I've spoken to you about this with you before. Now, we've addressed this with the chief, and he said it happened before his watch. But those officers are there now. They're testifying in cases. One is a homicide detective, and their testimony can be impeached. The investigation that they've handled is worthless because you cannot believe them. We've got one here tonight, Sergeant Gilchrist. He's on the list. Your head of the FOP, Ronnie Morgan, he's on the list. Y'all sit down and hold contract negotiations in good faith with a liar. You owe it to the people and the citizens of Little Rock to not have these officers out on the street making arrests. They need to be behind a desk. They actually need to be fired, but you should have them behind a desk. And you need to take action on that now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Raycott. Mr. Gilchrist?
Mayor, City Board, it's good to see you again. It's been a while since I've been to the podium. Kind of ironic that Mr. Raycup would acknowledge me this evening, but I seem to be one of his favorite. He cherry picks what he wants to talk about, and he doesn't know the facts. I came here this evening, Board, to discuss with you some concerning issues that I have. I've loosely gotten some answers that I wanted to know before I came to speak with you this evening. I've been sitting here in this chair pondering the appropriateness of discussing these things with you this evening in this forum. And although I'm appreciative of the fact that you allowed me to speak this evening, I'm going to defer, and I'm going to reach out to you in another, probably through email or phone calls, and talk to you individually when I think it'd be more appropriate. And so I look forward to speaking with each one of you, including you, Mr. Mayor, and as the senior member of the executive board of the Little Rock FOP, and a 32 member of the police department, 32-year member. I will soon be retiring in the next 30 days after 32 years of service. And, but I will remain on the executive board of the FOP so that the facts and the truths are addressed, and that we can do this in a professional manner. And with that, I'll thank you, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you, Mr. Gilchrist. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor, please say.
Can I ask you one question?
Yes.
Mayor?
Director Capiris.
Mayor,
We'll come to you next, Director Hendricks. Director Capiris.
You mind if I add something else to your plate? We're about to start June, and we need to, in my opinion, start thinking about our insurance for next year.
Well, let me.
Health insurance.
We already working on that, and we can give you a update at the next. And actually, let me give you two updates. I think you may be. We'll give you an update on where we are there at the next agenda meeting, as well as an update on our return to phased-in approach to regular operations.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellie.
Director Adcock. No, Director Hendricks. Then the Director Adcock.
Thank you.
I really wanted to ask the chief a question, the police chief, whoever that was. Can he come back to that mic?
Mr. Gilchrist, are you asking for Mr. Gilchrist to come back up to the mic?
Yes.
Mr. Gilchrist, if you oblige, you may come back to the mic.
Well, maybe you can tell me.
Certainly. I totally respect Director Hendricks, and matter of fact, my church is in her ward, so I'll be glad to.
Director Hendricks, you may proceed.
Okay, the question, you said that you wanted to talk to each one of the directors? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, ma'am. I don't know that publicly speaking up here this evening is the appropriateness of
okay,
would be appropriate.
What's your topic?
Pardon me, ma'am?
What would be your topic of discussion?
Spending and let's just limit it to spending right now. I don't want to allude too much.
So this is the first time you would be talking to us one-on-one about your finances. As long as you don't talk about the chief, okay, you can call it. But if you're talking about the chief, I don't want to hear it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
No, ma'am. I'm not trying to cause a public forum here and slander the chief. But
you got my message. You got my message. Thank you.
No, ma'am. I certainly understand. Thank you for your asking.
Director Adcock.
Yes. Mayor, we're getting ready to have a food drive, and we're going to hand out 1,000 boxes of food each week for the next 5 weeks. And I have asked Mr. Williams to get me 1,000 a week of our census information, that we can have it available to go into every one of the boxes that we are going to be passing out, so that we can not settle for good, but that we can try for greater.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
That's a great theme. I know you admonished me that while we may be doing good in regards to our census numbers, but there's always room for greater. So thank you for that counsel.
And I would like to ask that anyone else that's doing drives like this, that let's give them the information to pass out for the census too, because lots of the people that we'll be giving this food to may not have filled out their census, and this will be a reminder to get it in so we can hit that 70-80 mark.
Yes, ma'am. Director Hines?
Yes, Mayor. I was wondering if we could get an update on the appeal of the Judge Fox's ruling in Officer Stark's case. The city attorney says it's being handled by outside counsel, and I'd like an update on that.
Yes, we'll get you that update. We'll email that to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Director, was it?
I think
it's Director Pett.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
And Director Wright.
Could we get an update on yard waste?
We actually sent, I believe, an email out. No, we have sent an update, but Director Honeywell's here. Director Honeywell, could you give?
I'm actually getting emails as I sit here from constituents.
And I've had several today, and I have a question to ask on this issue too.
Yes,
I do too. Wait in line, Lance.
I'm
going to wait in line.
How about let's do this before Director Honeywell presents. If you all would pose those questions, if they're
okay, sure,
and then he can respond in his presentation.
Okay. Yes, just go on Nextdoor and see how many people are upset. And I get it, and I explain daily. The question has been posed, and I told that I told people that I would ask tonight, is there a possibility of them getting credit for the weeks that we missed picking up their yard waste? They feel like they shouldn't have to pay for services not rendered. So I have asked the question.
And to dovetail Director Peck, and I don't know if this will be a question for the city attorney or our finance director, but it seems to me that the state has been awarded $1.25 billion, and that my understanding is that if we are incurring expenses related to COVID, which this is, if we are forced to give refunds because we can't run full staff, we may have a way to recoup any refunded money to constituents. And I would agree with you. I've got several constituents today they've been 5 weeks without yard waste pickup, and a few weeks I think is tolerable, but when it gets to be 5 weeks, that we probably need to look at doing some type of refund, considering we've taken an increase on that earlier this year.
And Director Hines, I'll speak for Director Honeywell. We do agree that it's definitely been 5 weeks, but it has not been 5 weeks. You're correct. You'll give that date, but we have been in the middle and continue to be in the middle of a pandemic, which is a lot of the reasons why we've had to make the decisions. And we do understand the concern, but we are in the middle of a pandemic. Director Honeywell.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Peck, Director Hines, in regards to a credit, our statement regarding that has been the city has not seen an excess revenue or decrease in our expenses related to this. We've still been operating all of our equipment, paying all of our employees. So our expenses have not decreased compared to some private agencies that less people, let's take car insurance for instance, less people are driving, less miles on the road, less accidents, less chances of those accidents, so their costs go down. That's why you're seeing rebates and benefits related to some of those industries. Our costs have not changed. So that's why we have not been supportive of doing any kind of rebates when it comes to our collections of yard waste. I don't know if you want more explanation on that or not, but
John, what on a per month basis, what does yard waste account for in our solid waste bill per customer, per household?
I don't know that breakdown off the top of my head.
So that's information I like to have.
Sure.
When customers who are our constituents and pay for yard waste are not getting said services, which is pick up once every week, it really doesn't matter, and that if we're going to do the right thing and with our constituents, and like I said, some will tolerate it, but I've had 2 today that say it's been 5 weeks. So if we can't go back and prove that it's not been 5 weeks, I think we've got to look at some point, and I think we could recoup that if we've had to make changes because of the pandemic that's reduced our ability to deliver services. They're paying for a service we are not rendering. It has nothing to do with what our costs are. If we can recoup those costs from the CARES Act or the state, and it's my understanding if we can prove we've got extra borne expenses, which not being able to deliver service seems like we could go down that road, but this sounds like we're not even trying to explore that, and we're just saying because our costs haven't gone down, we're not going to give anybody a refund. I'm telling you that you will never get another solid waste increase again if we don't do something, because the constituents are remembering this, that it's all fresh in their minds that we've taken a rate increase, and pandemic be damned, we've got to do something. And that's not, I'm telling you right now, the pandemic as an excuse is not flying with my constituents. And when we can look at making a small refund, which I'm sure based on our solid waste collection, it's not a huge amount for one, for 1 month for the folks that had yard waste that wasn't picked up. I'm not saying we got to automatically refund everybody, but we've got
Well,
folks.
wait, if we're not going to refund everybody, how do we decide who's going to get
Well, I
refunded?
don't know. I guess we've got a record of
Director
complaints
Hine?
when they haven't been picked up. But that's for staff to sort out. And I'm just telling you that I'm not happy with the response. I'm not happy with and John, I'm not happy with the response I got this afternoon. And it took one of my constituents firing back. I was trying to head off. So the response we were giving is not acceptable to our customers. And that's who we've got to serve.
And Director Hines, I will share with you again, yes, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and while we are looking through and analyzing things, we will figure out if there is a decision needs to be made, but we're not at that point yet. Again, there are a lot of things, a lot of questions that have to be answered as part of this process, and Director Honeywell has already shared that. So we definitely do share your concern.
Mayor, I would beg to disagree with what we're
I was
getting
not
as the
finished,
party
Director
line.
Hines. I allowed you to finish. I was very respectful, so please allow me to finish. That being said, we will continue to review and make an assessment on what we need to do next. We are asking for patience in the middle of a pandemic. That's all we're sharing. Thank you so much. Director Wright.
Thank you. Well, Mayor, just to piggyback on that conversation, having yard waste picked up has always been a problem in Ward 6. And as Mr. Moore can tell you, I continuously go around to these sites myself. So you all may just now be experiencing this problem, but the only reason I supported the solid waste increase was to get more staff, more equipment to alleviate the problem that staff said they were having. Now, I understand the pandemic. My constituents are not having an issue with that. We know there's an issue going on with this, but I'm still taking pictures, calling in sites myself like I've always done, and I should not have to do that once we get back on track. That's my expectation, John. But this once a week pickup, I have not seen that take place in Ward 6. So I just want you to know that that has never happened, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, to what I was going to say in my comment, to Director Adcock's recommendation, which I think is excellent. There is a food giveaway, I think, this weekend. Is that correct, Mr. Moore? Do we have anybody from our census that will be there that can provide information to people going to that food drive? Does anybody know, Mayor? Or can we utilize that?
We'll figure that out. I'm looking at Mr. Williams.
It's supposed to be pretty big. I know I've seen it.
There are a lot of things, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah,
I know there's also the COVID-19 testing at St. Mark.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah, I think we'll have some staff there.
Okay, well, good.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Director Webb, you're next, then Director Peck. Hold on, we're going to take you off mute, Director Webb.
Thank you, and I just want to do a quick follow-up. Like everybody, I'm getting a lot of emails on the yard waste, and I will also say that at the beginning of the pandemic, I was one of the ones who got emails from people who suggested, and I think I sent it to you and to Bruce, people who were concerned about our drivers and wanted to see us do something to help protect them and not put them so much at risk. And I believe we did that by cutting down on the people in trucks and the way we did some of those things. But I walk my dog, and I see it hasn't been 3 weeks. It's been 6 weeks in some cases. And it's they're tired of getting emails from me saying soon. Soon is not a time, and I just hope that soon can be sooner rather than later.
And I totally agree with you. You can let them know that soon will be June 1st. We should be back on complete schedule, because you are correct, Director Webb. that due to social distancing guidelines to take care of the health and safety of our employees in public works, we decided to cut their crews, and that's what created this timeline of yard waste being delayed. We have been allowing our workers that do overtime the last couple of weekends and should be, based on our understanding from staff leadership, be back on schedule by June the 1st. So please share with your constituents June the 1st, which are all of ours.
Thank you.
Director Peck.
I promised this last question about yard waste, but it's a question for John, if you're still here. John, so we spoke about this last week. You were able to tell me where we were in the process, what zone, and so I could communicate with those most frustrated about when they might expect pickup. Well, that didn't quite happen, and you did explain that there's so much, it's taking quite a bit longer to pick up. But can you tell me where we are now so I can tell people
Yes, ma'am.
what they might expect?
We are currently on our second day of Tuesday pickups. That is Ward 5 area, West Little Rock. The last time we were in Ward 2, it took us 7 days to collect all of the yard waste.
7 days instead
I'm sorry, Ward 5. Did I say Ward 2? I apologize. Ward 5 is Tuesdays is Ward 5 routes, West Little Rock.
But it took 7
us
days
7
to pick
days.
up what you normally pick up in 1 day?
Yes, ma'am.
Because there's so much.
So,
okay.
And then after that, Wednesday routes, which is Ward 3 area primarily, that took us 5 days to collect. Now, this is back when we had half crews. We're now currently working full crews. So we're hoping to see that reduced by half at least. But there is more material because it's been longer that it's been out there and more opportunity for people to put more stuff out. But we are still anticipating being back on schedule June 1st.
Director Hines.
So everything I've heard here, and Tom, tell me if I'm wrong what I'm hearing, everything because of our increased costs for paying folks running half crews is COVID related. I think we should be lobbying the governor's task force on how they're going to spend the $1.25 billion. We can recoup that. It's COVID related. The federal funds coming to the state are COVID related. If we can prove it's COVID related, we're having extra costs, deferring. If we have to do a refund, we should be able to recoup it. That's what we should be working on. And please tell me if we are, and I'll shut up. But I don't.
And we are.
And I'm not hearing that we're doing that as of last week, unless something's changed.
Director Hines, Arkansas Municipal League, and Director Emily Cox has been working with the Arkansas Municipal League, and actually I believe a letter went out yesterday or today in regards to advocacy for cities and COVID-19 related spending of the $1.25 billion as well. And I know our CFO will be able to share with you as well that we are keeping track of every COVID-19 expense. Even the overtime that we are using right now will be reimbursed based on COVID-19 expenses with FEMA. And we definitely can give you a update in regards to our FEMA expenses that we are keeping track. And I will tell you that the city of Little Rock is an example of the FEMA reimbursement within the state. And so you are right. There is a $1.25 billion. The governor has not set forth on how he will distribute that to the cities. The reason why we don't have access to those dollars is because the CARES Act allows for it to be distributed to states and counties of $500,000 or more. That being said, Pulaski County being the largest county in the state of Arkansas is somewhere around $444,000. So the county does not have the ability to distribute that to the cities, nor that this city is, because we are approximately $200,000. So we have to wait on our governor, who has already set aside a CARES Act committee, and they've already had 2 to 3 different meetings, and we have been advocating. But until we receive that information from the state, we do not have an answer for you, besides the fact that the Arkansas Municipal League is advocating on our behalf, and that we've also been in communication with Congressman French Hill, as well as Senators Bozeman and Cotton. We've also shared for the next round of funding that cities of at least, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Moore, I know I've talked to Senators Cotton, Bozeman, as well as Congressman French Hill, to if there was a possibility for this third round of funding that's now been recently passed in the House, it will be changed as it goes to the Senate, that we're advocating for cities of somewhere around 50,000. So again, until we get that 30,000, until we get that 50,000. Until we get that information, there's no update.
Thank you.
How's everybody doing? That's good. All right.
Mayor.
Well, Director Richardson. After that, Director Richardson. Then Director.
Items, a couple items
Right.
I just heard about the issue we were talking about. I mean, to me, the operative word that Lance said was if we can prove. I don't know how we go about proving that, but I think as we look and seek additional funds, there will be a host of priorities, host of needs. Thank you. Sometimes ward-based. We don't want to get in the habit of playing ward politics. I don't know how you can develop a cookie-cutter approach that's going to satisfy all the needs that all the issues we've been suffering through this COVID virus. I think that's something, I don't know if we're going to do that internally, how that's going to work, we'll do that as a board or individually, who makes the most noise, who yells the loudest. But to me, that's going to be an issue that we're going to have to address, where our priorities are. Some priorities in Ward 5 may not be priorities in Ward 2 and vice versa. Some priorities in Ward 6 may not be priorities in Ward 7. So I think to that extent, we need to figure out a way to play chess instead of checkers, figure out front end what we're going to do, how much we need, how much we want. And back to Doris's point about the census, I asked a couple of weeks ago, but we're looking at any outside institutions to try to help us with that, because not everybody's in the neighborhood association. Not everybody's going to line up for a meal at food bank. We have unfortunately, a large number of disconnected adults in our community that don't show up on our radar screen unless it's punitive measures like more law enforcement or bigger jails. And we need to count everybody in our community. And I think we need to be mindful that there are a host of people in our community, unfortunately, that are not connected in these institutions we're utilizing right now. I think Charles, a couple of weeks ago, mentioned the Urban League. And the Urban League is fine, but I'm talking about some of those more grassroots institutions that are working with those people who don't show up on our radar screen unless it's in some punitive form.
Thank you so much for that feedback, Director Richardson. Director Wright?
Yes, Mr. Honeywell, you mentioned certain days that you're in certain wards. Remind me again what day you pick up in Ward 6?
What day we pick up in Ward 6?
You said you were Tuesday and 5?
Well, Tuesday is sort of the western part of the city. Wednesday is more midtown part of the city. And then I believe you might be, Ward 6 might be Friday, because that's sort of the south part of midtown and southwest.
No.
It's the day after your
We are
garbage
West Central
collection.
Little Rock. We're out by Baptist Hospital.
I understand
What's
where
your,
your
what's
ward
your,
is.
when's your trash picked up?
My trash is picked up on Wednesday.
So
it's
it's
Thursday.
the next day. It's Thursday.
Thursday. That's what I thought. And I was trying to figure out what was I hearing.
The garbage days don't necessarily align with ward boundaries. They overlap different areas. That's why I was saying it's sort of geographical areas versus an actual ward boundary. They aren't exactly, they don't match.
I understand. I heard that. I was trying to figure out, okay, then am I missing something here? Is there a particular day? Because I thought it was.
Yeah, it's always the day after your
Thursday.
regular garbage collection is your yard waste day.
As I said, that's not been happening ever.
And I did want to add that as far as you asked for a schedule, the best schedule, what we're anticipating right now is we're in on Tuesday routes. We anticipate to right now being done with that Thursday, and then moving into Wednesday routes, and then in those Tuesday, Thursday routes are our heaviest volume days. So we should be able to, over that next week, we'll work that this coming Saturday, and then the next week we should be caught back up through those last 2 days of the week to get back on a Monday schedule on a Monday where we should be able to move forward with regular crews at that point.
Director Webb, would you like to make a special announcement? Or is that?
No, I was just going to say something about the census, but.
You can make
that's
it.
okay.
You sure?
No, to Director Richardson's point, I heard what he's saying. The food banks and the food pantries are targeting as many folks as possible, and there are a lot of people who typically have not used those services before who are now, and we're trying to get that word out, and we're trying to get into the neighborhoods more with some of the food distribution, and we'll just keep plugging away at it.
Thank you so much. Any more comments?
One more, Mayor.
Director Richardson?
Yes, I want to thank Kathy for the work that she's doing with this, and I appreciate her reaching out to some of the people we normally don't reach out to. Not knowing we don't reach out to them, but somehow they're not connected with us in the things that they do. I don't know if Gilchrist is still there, but I want to echo Director Hendricks' point. If he wants to have any conversation about the chief, please don't call me. I have no interest in discussing the chief, any personnel matters, or any issues dealing with him. So if you want to talk about the chief, do not call me as well.
Yes, sir.
And Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
I echo that point. I will not discuss anything relative to personnel. I don't mind if they have a question or discussion about the budget, anything financial, but not about ongoing issues in our personnel department with our police.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, I guess we're going to have somebody to come and see about my computer.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you. I just can't see you beautiful.
What I want you to do, I sent you an email. I'm not going to bother John Honeywell, but I sent you an email where we have on 15th and Pulaski about 150 feet where some resident put stuff on the curb. You got it. If you didn't, you better look at it. Somebody needs to get out there before Friday.
Yes, ma'am, we'll get Director
1500 block of Pulaski. It's a low-down shame, and whoever did it ought to be fined.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Moore, if I forget, we'll share that with Mr. Honeywell.
Yeah, we three of us got something this afternoon, and I think, yeah, it's a mess.
We're going to make sure it's handled, Director Hendricks.
Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Thank
All
you.
of you.
Have a blessed day as well. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Meeting adjourned.